Hello everybody. So I thought I'd do a quick video and talk a little bit about the DLCs or the add-ons for DCS World, mainly because I've spoken a little bit about the menus and a little bit about the DLCs in terms of those little icons at the bottom, but mainly I wanted to sort of take a step backwards and go, what is this DLC, what is this DCS, and where do I get it from, how do I install it and whatnot. And what I'll talk about on this video is just the Steam version, because that's the only one I'm familiar with. There are other ways of getting DCS. There is actually going to their website and downloading it from their website, which argumentatively is a better way, because it means you get access to 2 free weeks of the DLCs, whereas Steam does not have a free trial option, which I think is a huge shame, because these modules that are released are very, very interesting modules, and you want to really know if you want to buy it or not. That being said, if you're anything like me, you'll do your own research, watch your own YouTube clips on these, and decide whether or not you're going to purchase it or not. So yeah, over to you guys. So here's the thing, this is where the Steam page will take you. You'll land in something like this, and you will see that DCS is straight off the bat is a free bit of software. So you can play DCS World for free at any stage. There's no payments, and what you get with that is you get the SU-25 Frogfoot and you get the TF-51 Mustang for free, and they are by no means low quality modules. They are actually pretty fun to fly, although that's saying that the Mustang does not allow you to put weapons on it, as far as I'm aware. Could be wrong, but when I've played it, I certainly can't figure out how to do that. So just to put you in perspective of how many different modules are available for DCS, I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to show you just how many there are, and as you can see, there are quite a few, and if you were to buy them all for 5,000 New Zealand dollars, then give me a call, because I'll come around to your house and we can play them all. But yeah, obviously they are very expensive. Now, how modules work, and we can go to some different pages on the Steam page, because fortunately they've realized that there are a lot of modules, so you can go into different ways of viewing it. So firstly we'll do is we'll browse all 116, and this will go to this list system here, which is a lot easier to understand. And from here you can see the featured ones, so usually the ones that have been released in the last 2 years or so, maybe even longer, and these are probably the most best-selling ones you'll find. So starting from the bottom, the F-18, as this came out in 2018, it's still in early access and is still being upgraded. In fact, there's about to be a new patch released shortly, which will add a lot more detail into the electronic warfare systems of the aircraft, and right through. So you can see this is the more latest current ones. For example, Black Shark just came out, the Black Shark 3. Now, if you're keen-eyed, you'll see the cost of these modules are not cheap, $110 for the Black Shark 3 and so forth, and you can see. Now, don't scoff away from this and go, that's the cost of like 3 games that I could buy on Steam. The time investment that you'll put into these modules, if you're serious, will be probably more than what you'll pay for a sort of a listing game. Argumentatively, obviously, I don't know what you guys play, but as you go down, you can see we can break this down a bit more. So I keep harping back to the question on my videos, is which module should I buy? Well, it really comes down to what you like. So for example, if we click on the fixed wings, there is a lot of them, and you can go through these. Some of them are quite old. For example, if we go down to something a little bit more high fidelity that I'm aware of. So as you can see, the dates will, don't be scared away from something that's a bit older. So for example, I know the Mirage has quite a large following, and just because it was released in 2017 doesn't mean it's a poorly made or low quality model. The models definitely aren't as high fidelity and high quality as you'll find in the later versions, but they are certainly not terrible in any way of thinking. Now some of them are like the F-15C, which you can buy as a 3-pack called Flaming Cliffs. If you want to just play some sort of low fidelity aircraft that you can just jump in a multiplayer game or just jump in and have a bit of fun, they're still fairly well modelled, but they just don't have all the systems set up. So it's basically 3 clicks will get you in the air and you can fly around and fire missiles and whatnot. Then definitely the F-15C, along with some of these the Su-33, which comes, I believe, with the Super Carrier pack. But as you see here, Flaming Cliffs 3, it gives you a few aircraft to play with here. So highly recommend if you are interested in just jumping in some aircraft, not too worried about learning the full system details. Definitely jump on and buy Flaming Cliffs. It has a lot of sales, so wait for a sale, because you can get this down, I've seen as low as about $30 through when they have these sales, which are quite often. But if you're desperate to get it, $82 is a pretty good deal when you consider you're getting something like 6 different aircraft for pretty much the price of less than one. So very, very worth it. Some other things you've got to consider: are you willing to get right into the simulation side of the house and maybe want to pick up a trainer first? So for example, the Albatross is a great trainer. It's a bit old now, but again, it's still got some pretty high ratings if you look at the positive reviews, and some other trainers that are out there like the Aviojet, I believe it's called, the C101 is actually a really nice training aircraft, but you won't be expecting to use it for much more than training. They're not very well designed in that sense, and you wouldn't really want to put them into combat because they're sort of a modern jet, but not modern enough to get involved in anything large scale on a multiplayer server. So again, really comes down to if you want trainers or just jump straight into the fold, so to speak. So you could look at something like the A10. Now I bought the A10 originally back in 2015, and this is the A10-2 is the updated version, so they basically remodeled it, added all the new features that have been improved on it, and I still can't fly it. So I spent a lot of money on my A10s, and I've never really got past taking them off and landing them again, maybe firing the fancy gun, and that's had a bit of fun and then gone land. But definitely one of the most high fidelity models you can find is the A10. So definitely jump in there if you're into that ground attack. So as you can see, lots and lots and lots of different fixed wing aircraft here to choose from, and noting the price, you do want to make a pretty educated decision before you commit. Unlike me, for example, the F-16, I love the look of it, but once I started getting into it, it just wasn't for me. I just don't have the passion to fly it, and as much as I've tried many times over, I always end up back in my trusty old F-18, just because I compare it to Windows 95 and sort of Windows XP and your Hornet. That's how I look at it. Anyway, so that's your fixed wings. Have a good look through those, read through some of the reviews, and it should give you a decent understanding of what you're kind of getting yourself into. Don't want to make this video too long, but I'll just quickly chuck to the Rotary-wings. There's not a great deal of them. I mean, this is it. So this is all there is available, and fortunately for me, I've pretty much got them all except for the Black Shark and the Gazelle. There's a lot of mixed discussion in the community about Gazelle. A lot of people will say the flight model is unrealistic, it feels tacky, it's just not quite what they would expect, whereas some people say it is actually accurate, and that's what you would expect in a Gazelle. Ultimately, if you're into sort of recon scouting type gameplay, this is a very good module to work in conjunction with, like the Apaches or even the Black Sharks, because they are really good at lasing and preparing targets and basically scoping out the battlefield. I've played in servers where the Gazelle becomes your scout, and it's really handy. So if you're into that sort of stuff, it might be down your alley. Personally, not too interested in that. I'm kind of waiting for the OH-58 when that comes out, and have a jam on that. But definitely, as you can see, the Huey, the Hind, the Mighty 8, also the Magnificent 8, and the Apache are the ones that I've got, and I apply them all, and I love them all. So Rotary-wings, definitely, they're very, very good models. Huey's getting a bit dated now. It did come out in 2013, and you do notice it in the textures, but apart from that, it is still perfectly I'd say right up there with my favourites, and it doesn't look too dated. You can just notice it if you're starting to get a bit nitpicky. Okay, the other one that we'll talk about is probably a very, very important one, your terrains. Now, DCS comes out of the box. You'll get the Caucasus map and the Marianas, which is a free one that's recently come out. You get pretty sick of the Caucasus pretty soon. Like, you'll start to learn all about the Caucasus, and you'll know where to fly, and it's always the same. It gets a little bit repetitive when you're trying to run new campaigns or new missions or come up with some new scenarios. So you do want to start to open up some of the horizons. And from my perspective, the Persian Gulf is a great all-rounder. And the reason why the Persian Gulf is good is that you can create a lot of different scenarios. You've got a lot of countries around the Persian Gulf. I'll just go into this. It'll show us a breakdown of how much space you get. Okay, cool. So in the Persian Gulf, you've got a lot of space. The only, I suppose, negative side is the terrain does not look very textured and doesn't look very well modelled the closer you get to the ground. It's probably one of the earlier sort of DLC payware maps, and you'll find that there are some really nice areas, but there's also really open plain and barren areas. So great for long distance missions, high altitude, air-to-air combat, even ground strikes like precision strikes, GPS strikes, that kind of thing. Great missions for that. Great missions for carrier missions if you're doing any sort of carrier ops. It's really good. It's an all-rounder. Most people have this on their servers, so you can play something like this. But I would definitely recommend the Persian Gulf if you want something that's not so taxing as well on your computer. That is the other problem with some of these maps, and that's where I'll bring into. These are all my opinions, don't get me wrong. There's probably a lot of people out there can give you way more detail on this, but this is just how I've seen it over the years of playing. Syria. So Syria is one of my favourite maps, but boy is it taxing on your computer. So if you are playing VR, expect this to really tune down your graphics settings so that you can play this, because it can get very, very resource hungry. But it is a beautiful map. It's got some great ground textures. It's got great assets. As you can see on these images, it's just a fantastic terrain to purchase if you can get it again on sale or just buy it outright. I don't mind paying for these modules outright. It's the only game I'll ever pay outright and not feel like I've been ripped off or I should have waited. In fact, I think I bought the F-16 full price, and then I think a week later it went on sale. Didn't really mind because the work that they put into these is absolutely phenomenal, and Syria is just incredible. It takes up about, it takes up like 120 gig of space. So I think one of my earlier videos I said make sure you really get your SSD drives and your dedicated hard drives for DCS, because when you start adding all the modules, I think my DCS folder takes up about 400 gigs now from memory, something like that, because of all the downloaded stuff I've got. So just be aware of that when you're doing into your terrains. And look, from there, the South Atlantic hasn't got a great following. I quite like the South Atlantic if you're doing. The challenge that you'll find in this is it's the size. It is gigantic. And what I like about that is that if you're doing some persistent maps, or you're doing some gameplay where you're having to fly between the Falklands and the mainland, you need to do fuel management. And fuel management is something that a lot of games don't really take into account, but you need to learn your aircraft. You need to know how much fuel it's going to take. Definitely with your maps, making sure you choose them wisely, and again, it's an investment, so you will be playing on and off whichever one. So yeah, that's your in a nutshell, your DLCs. I would personally recommend, like I said, to summarise, get a fixed wing aircraft that you're really passionate about, one of these ones, and then get a Rotary-wing if you're into that. If you're not into choppers, then don't get a Rotary. Do not waste your money if you're not going to get into it, because it takes a long time to learn these things. Find what's your passion, get it, learn it, fly it, enjoy it, and then go get yourself a terrain that you're really passionate about as well. So yeah, that kind of ends this video on the DLC side. Hopefully you got something out of this. I don't want to be all cliche and say give me a thumbs up or a subscribe or any of that rubbish. You can do it if you don't, I don't care. I don't even know if anyone watches this stuff, but yeah, by all means, if you're interested in these videos or want something specific, comment on it, because I'm happy to do videos on what I've kind of learnt over my time with DCS, and this is just scraping the surface. There's such an in-depth bit of software that's been developed, and yeah, we could talk all day. So by all means, comment away, and hopefully catch you on the next one.